Why is it that you took so much time off from your divorce or your previous heartbreaking relationship and you worked on yourself? You went to therapy. You might have even had EMDR. You focused on your career. You focused on raising your kids. You did the responsible thing that a smart, intelligent, conscientious woman would do. You took time off. You took a break to work on yourself. So why, after doing all of that, did you wind up in another dysfunctional relationship, an even worse toxic relationship than the one before? Or why are you still going after, being attracted to, giving too many chances to unavailable or inconsistent people? If you have found that this has happened to you, you are not alone. My name is Bethany Dotson. I am a trauma-sensitive somatic therapist. I'm a relationship coach for high-achieving women over the age of 40 who struggle to attract healthy relationships and who've had narcissistic abuse. I have also fallen into that pattern of thinking that I've done all the work, that I did the right thing. I worked so hard on myself and then found myself in another unhealthy relationship. And today I'm going to talk about why taking time off and doing what you believe is the responsible thing is actually doing you a disservice, and how that can actually strengthen your relationship patterns, taking a lot of time off dating, and what needs to shift in order for you to break your cycle, so to speak, of unhealthy relationships, especially in the romantic sector. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, pardon that interruption, I have a 21-year-old cat and she is extremely clingy right now. Feline dementia. There's a part of me that's super frustrated with her incessant meowing. And there is also another part of me that knows that I'm going to miss this. And I don't have a lot of time left with her. So I'm going to try to edit this out later. The first point that I want to cover is that if you've taken the responsible route and you've taken time off dating to get into therapy, get into EMDR, focus on your career, grow your career, make more money, you're responsible, you're intelligent, you do all of the right things, taking the responsible route can actually be a mask for emotional avoidance. There are a lot of women who get into narcissistic relationships and who endure emotional, financial, what have you, any form of abuse in a relationship. And while they might have entered that relationship being more of an anxious attacher and or a codependent type of person, what often happens is when they leave those types of relationships, they kind of shift into being more emotionally avoidant. They keep everybody at arm's length. She probably even avoids her own emotions through workaholism, achieving. Maybe she was addicted to her ex, but now without a man in her life, she becomes addicted to achieving and addicted to reaching goals at the detriment of losing herself, just like she lost herself in an unhealthy relationship. So while being responsible is well-intended, and it doesn't make you a bad person for being responsible, being responsible can often be a guise or disguise for being emotionally avoidant, and we become emotionally avoidant to protect ourselves. Second most important point, probably the most important point that I want to make here, is that taking a long period of time off of dating after a toxic relationship or marriage can actually strengthen your dysfunctional relationship patterns, especially when it comes to romantic partners. This is because when you get out of a toxic relationship, there's usually a long period of ruminating. You're still trauma bonded. Your body is still in fight or flight mode. You're still researching your eyeballs out about the narcissist. You're still stuck in that story. And once you make it past that initial phase of healing, you find some stability, you find your rhythm again, you kind of find what you like, and you might even crave emotional flatness or not a lot of disturbance in your life. You might crave that sense of peace. You've probably, if you've been out of a relationship for a while, you've probably created a home and a routine for yourself that is just right, that you love, and nobody can get in that and mess that up. And we tend to crave that emotional flatness, that emotional even keel thing. The other thing is that our tolerance for intensity also drops. So if you were in a toxic relationship, your nervous system got wired to that level of intensity in that relationship. And this is often why people struggle to find a sense of normalcy again after leaving a toxic relationship, because you've been reconditioned to want and crave that intensity. Like I mentioned before, a lot of women, what they will do is, instead of learning to live without that level of intensity, they will pour that level of intensity into something else. Oftentimes, it looks like her career. So once you have dropped your level of intensity in romantic relationships, and once you've been living without that level of intensity in a romantic relationship for a while, and once you've secured this level of emotional steadiness in your own life, you're not ruminating anymore, or at least as much anymore. You're not up at 1 o'clock in the morning researching the narcissist. What tends to happen is that the first person that you feel a connection with, it's like your old pattern that's been in hibernation comes roaring back to life. And your body, your nervous system chooses that rush of dopamine over logic. This is why you can probably even identify the red flags in somebody. You can recognize this person came from a chaotic childhood. This person has struggled with smoking weed every day. This person has, he's not very financially, doesn't have any goals or ambitions in life. You can logically spot the things that are not adding up right and still move forward anyway. And after coaching dozens and dozens and dozens of women in this arena, what I can say is that oftentimes they learn a lot about themselves when they're healing and working on themselves. They learn a lot about the narcissist. They learn a lot about red flags, but that logical awareness is not enough to bypass what what your body already recognizes as familiar. So taking a lot of time off might give you some new logical insights. It might make you more successful in your career. It might help you feel more confident. You may be transferring the level of intensity that you have been accustomed to in romantic relationships now into your career. Go, go, go all the time. But what happens is that nothing is really, truly changing in your attraction patterns. And sometimes, if not often, when you are focusing on your career and focusing on developing other areas of your life, there's a pattern that can arise of depleting yourself. If you were in a toxic relationship, you very likely have psychological makeup that makes you a match for that. You probably deprioritize your own needs. You may not even know what your own needs are. You may be an overgiver. You may be basing your value and your worth on how much you can give to somebody or how much you can achieve in your career. So that underlying makeup that made you a match for a toxic marriage or toxic partner doesn't really go away. It just kind of shifts forms. It morphs into now you've got something new, like your career or a new project at work or growing your business to focus on, that tends to take you down that same familiar path of intensity. Again, once you finally open yourself to partnership and date, what often happens 9 times out of 10 is the one person that you finally feel something with, he's attractive, funny, charming, charismatic, there's no overt red flags. It's that one person that tends to trigger your stuff again and bring you right back into overriding inconsistencies, staying too long, ignoring your intuition, making excuses, justifying that person's bad behavior. So taking a lot of time off can actually strengthen your patterns because you're never giving yourself truly an opportunity to do things differently. And you do things differently in relationship, which brings me to point number 3. There's only so much healing you can do on yourself by yourself. The real test of how much you have healed comes when you are in relationships that trigger the hell out of you. And if you are avoiding dating, I will bet my last dollar that if it's not a man that or a woman, depending on your preference, that is triggering you or bringing up your old patterns, it's going to be somebody else. It's going to be a parent. It's going to be a coworker. It's going to be your boss. It's going to be a best friend that you have tolerated her drama for way too long, and you just feel bad if you set a boundary or feel bad if you're not there for her. So it's going to be somebody else that's going to trigger your stuff. So your healing happens in relationship. You don't have, if you're focusing on yourself and you're avoiding dating, what you're doing is you're removing the one thing that is going to help you heal the most. And that is that relational activation, being in relationship. And this brings me to my fourth and final point, which is true responsibility. The truest form of responsibility is learning how to be in the throes of a relationship and develop that awareness, that discernment of staying or going. True responsibility is learning how to weather the ups and downs in the early dating journey and the early phases of dating somebody new. The uncertainty, the lack of commitment, the lack of definition of what you are, the people's patterns, right? You can't control another person. True responsibility and doing the responsible thing is learning how to navigate that and navigate your own patterns that are inevitably going to arise, and then choose something differently. Choosing to avoid relationships because you've been hurt before is a natural response, but it will not heal your patterns. If this resonated for you and you would like to learn more, I have a free masterclass called Break the Cycle, where I go over the 5 psychological shifts, the things that you need to be doing differently in your life in order to break your pattern of unhealthy relationships and attract healthier relationships, along with developing a healthier relationship with yourself. You can go to BethanyDotson.com/masterclass. And then if you are a single or divorced woman over the age of 40, you've had therapy, you've had EMDR, you might be in therapy right now. It's helped you, but you feel like you're not getting the results that you really, really want, especially in your dating life. Then I invite you to book a free discovery session where we will hop on the phone together. I will kind of guide you through an experience on uncovering your biggest fears. You probably already know what your fears are, but we're going to dig a little deeper. And then most importantly, I'm going to help you get clear on what it is that you really, really want from a partner, what you really want for your life, especially if you're kind of, you've achieved a certain level of success, but you're feeling kind of disillusioned or stuck or unhappy. So the call is about getting you clarity. And it's also about discovering if we are a good fit to work together. This call is for women who are financially secure, who are secure and stable in other areas of their life, who aren't in a toxic relationship, and who aren't needing help to leave an abusive relationship. This is for somebody who knows that time is passing by, who knows that she's got to do something different, who knows on an intrinsic level, an intuitive level, that she's ready for change and ready for more happiness, ready for partnership, and ready to enjoy the journey of dating instead of dreading it. BethanyDotson.com/talk. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.